information so far as the clearance of vessels at the port is concerned. This is in line with international maritime organizations and next to the Facilitation Convention, which makes the single window for data exchange mandatory in ports around the world. Ahead of the proposed phased implementation of the Maritime single window in April, the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority has led a series of engagements for the parties involved to help them understand how the platform works and prepare for its rollout. This includes the various shipping agents, customs, port health, Ghana Maritime Authority, Ghana Immigration Service, Narcotics Control Commission, among others. The corporate IT manager at GPHA, Francis Donko, highlighted the service offerings of this platform, which is distinct from the integrated customs management system used for cargo clearance.
Maritime single window really is about the vessel clearance. It's not focusing on cargo, which the other single window actually focus on. This is about vessel. Before the vessel comes to our waters, it ought to be cleared. Before the vessel even docks on our ports, it ought to be cleared. Before we even start working the vessel, that vessel has to be cleared by certain authorities. So we are building a platform, that will enable all the stakeholders, be it the shipping agents, the regulatory authorities, to share information and share files, and that really is going to facilitate this whole trade that we have in Ghana here.
Representatives of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority and Ghana Maritime Authority indicated their preparedness ahead of the implementation of the vessel clearance system.
The turnaround time of vessels is crucial to trade facilitation. And therefore, if IMO is pushing any of such initiatives to enhance early clearance of vessels or smooth clearance of vessels, Customs is more than ready. In fact, we are happy because it makes our work easier.
With the coming on of the single window system, Ghana Maritime is very excited because the International Maritime Organization has approved this and it is working already from January 2024. And as Ghana Maritime Authority is the government agency that represents the country at such meetings, we will be very much excited to tell the story of Ghana, that we are also ready and applying the maritime single window in our vessel clearance.
The Grimaldi Group, one of the largest shipping passenger transport operators in Northern Europe and the Mediterranean, has christened one of its largest vessels in the new G5 class of RoRo multi-purpose ships after the port of Tema. At an impressive ceremony at the port of Tema to christen the vessel MV Great Tema, the managing director of Grimaldi Ghana, Walter Assetti, said the company has been an active stakeholder in the shipping industry in Ghana for the past 40 years.
The arrival of Great Tema is a celebration of the port, the Tema community, and the whole nation. It's a symbol of hope and a source of inspiration, and a reminder of greatness of Ghana. Together, we are setting sail toward a horizon filled with opportunity, growth, and shared success. Thank you for being part of historic day. Welcome, Great Tema, to your home.
A representative of the Grimaldi ship owners, Giuseppe Patani, explained the rationale for naming the vessel after the port of Tema.
So the choice of naming this ship the Great Tema is a clear sign of confidence and also appreciation of this association between the Grimaldi Group and the port of Tema. And actually, we believe that it's fitting perfectly that such a fine ship is named after such a fine port. Also because the port of Tema, from now on, will be one of the main homes of this shipping future.
The Italian ambassador to Ghana, Daniela Dolandi, disclosed that the volume of bilateral trade between Ghana and Italy reached almost 700 million euros in the year 2023, adding that there is the need for more opportunities and growth.
And Great Tema vessel is in fact named after the biggest port of Ghana, which is also a strategic gateway to West Africa. I wish to warmly congratulate the Grimaldi Group for its achievements, and I look forward to an ever-growing collaboration between Italy and Ghana, which will bring more and more opportunities of prosperity and growth.
The Director General of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Michael Lugoje, lauded the Grimaldi Group for their collaboration with Ghana's ports and assured them of their dedication to nurture the relationship they have established in order to create more enabling opportunities like this in the future.
But I'm happy that this vessel didn't come here empty. It came with cargo meant for Ghana, which means that majority of shippers in this country and traders still believe in Ghana ports, and they have Ghana ports as their choice of destination. That is why this vessel loaded Ghana-bound cargo discharged in our ports. We are grateful to these customers, and we are grateful, of course, to the Grimaldi Group for all these years, for naming the ship after Tema and choosing our company.
He said, Ghana has the leading container terminal in West and Central Africa and the leading dry bulk terminal, revealing that a new oil and gas services terminal will be commissioned by the end of 2024 at the port of Takoradi.
For us at the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, our role within the economy of Ghana is to provide enabling infrastructure and systems that will make Ghana the best destination for trade. I think we've played this role quite well, and if I may just draw your attention to the fact that today, apart from Ghana's history as the star of Africa, the black star of Africa, Tema is also the center of the world. So naturally, we have a leading role by birth and by geography. And we haven't forgotten that our governments have supported the Ports Authority to position Ghana's ports in this light.
A Deputy Minister for Transport, Frederick Obeng-Adom, stated that government is keen on improving port infrastructure in order to facilitate port businesses and operations.
This is evidenced by the policy interventions, programs and projects being implemented by the government to bring efficiency, thereby reducing the general cost of business at our ports. Government sees the private sector players in the ports and shipping value chain as partners for national development.
He averred that government is committed to achieve the green shipping agenda.
Government, and for that matter, the ministry is committed and indeed has been implementing policies and programs towards achieving the green shipping agenda. Indeed, in 2023, Ghana was privileged to host the IMO Green Shipping Conference and also actively participated in the COP28 in Dubai, UAE. I want to use this opportunity to commend Grimaldi Group and your partners for your efforts, not only at bringing the state-of-the-art vessel to Ghana, but by so doing, attracting port investment and businesses to Ghana ports through your network.
A one-of-a-kind passenger cruise ship, MV World Odyssey, has visited Ghana's ports, carrying close to 500 students from around the world. The Bahamas-flagged 175-meter-long vessel serves as a floating university campus for undergraduate and postgraduate students, allowing them to travel the world while earning academic credit. The last port of call was Cape Town, before spending 3 days in Tema and Takoradi respectively. It is en route to Tanger Med in Morocco. It is the 6th ever ship under Semester at Sea, a program run by the Institute for Shipboard Education and Association with Colorado State University in the USA. Semester at Sea offers a variety of academic programs, including courses in liberal arts, environmental studies, international business, and more. In addition to academics, students also engage in various extracurricular activities and cultural immersion experiences while on board the ship. These may include field trips, guest lectures, community service projects, and cultural exchanges with locals at port stops. The captain of the ship, Jan Christensen, the executive dean for the Semester at Sea program, Marty Fessenden, and a few students told Iron Port more about this unique academic experience.
This vessel is very special. Like I said, it's the only vessel existing like this in the world. The biggest difference, of course, is that we stay very long in the port stays. So mostly we stay up to 6 days in the different countries. Exactly like you said, to balance here also the educational part of the program, so that the students have enough time to explore the different countries, the different cultures, and also to meet, of course, the local population of the countries. That is the idea behind Semester at Sea, to explore the world with our students.
All of these students will tell you that they interact with students from around the globe. Another thing I think it's important to know about this program is as we sail from different countries, we bring on a university student from that country. And so we just sailed from Cape Town to Ghana, and on the ship with us was a student from Ghana, a college student from Ghana, University of Legon. And she spent the week in different classes talking with these students and interacting with our faculty.
I think semester at sea in general, and especially global studies, is designed to provide students with a more global perspective. And I think that course provides enough background information that students can feel comfortable engaging in the port countries that we visit.
I've really enjoyed experiencing each country's unique culture and comparing the similarities and differences.
Benjamin Amung touched on why OMA Ghana has gained prominence in providing ship agency and husbandry services for the bird and cruise sector in Ghana.
Larry, is the experience, the touch of that hospitality that we give the ship. Even the students, some of them always said, oh, OMA is the agent, as if they've been touring or, with the ships or the passenger ships. That is why we are unique. OMA always want to do their best and give you the best. This particular vessel, MV World Odyssey, will surely come back in October. We are just praying that they come because we want more of these passenger vessels to visit our country. Ghana is beautiful and we want them to come and experience our culture.
The Ghana Armed Forces has embarked on a maritime expedition to the geographic center of the world, where the Greenwich Meridian meets the equator. The exercise that started on Monday, March 18, 2024, ended on Friday, March 22, 2024 in the maritime waters around the Western Naval Command. Dubbed Exercise Sea Lion, this Navy-led exercise was to test the endurance and combat readiness of selected Ghana Navy ships. The exercise, which was assisted by the U.S. Navy, also trained personnel in fleet maneuvers, test the interoperability of the three services of the armed forces, improve counter-terrorism operations, among others. Ahead of the exercise, a flagging off ceremony to set the ships off took place at the port of Tema in the presence of the new Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General Thomas Opon-Prapra, and the U.S. Ambassador to Ghana, Virginia Evelyn Palmer. The Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General Thomas Opon-Prapra, said exercises of this nature are key in building the capacity of the Navy against emerging maritime threats.
The joint nature of the exercise will help build interoperability for future operations. Contemporary security threats such as piracy and terrorism in the West African sub-region require a very capable and robust personnel well trained and equipped to deal with them.
The flag officer commanding the Eastern Naval Command, Commodore Maxwell Ahin, highlighted the tourism component of this exercise.
The Ghana Navy considers this important point or location as a strategic area where the Ghana Tourism Authority could leverage to boost global tourism. For example, in 2019, the Ghana Navy collaborated with the Ghana Tourism Authority under the theme Year of Return, and it was a huge success.
All right, so those were some happenings in the port and shipping industry in our country. We're now going to the global stage to see what is happening there by way of news.
The Maritime and Port Authority of Singapore and the Port of Southampton have agreed to collaborate on green and digital shipping. On March 17, the port authorities met and discussed various areas of potential cooperation regarding sustainable maritime transport. The discussions were in context of the UK-Singapore Green Economy Framework. Both sides agreed that cooperation between like-minded stakeholders across the maritime and port ecosystems of the United Kingdom and Singapore would be important to support the decarbonization, digitalization, and growth of the maritime industry. The partners also noted that the meeting paves the way for further discussions on green and digital shipping cooperation between Singapore and Southampton. As countries embrace tools and efforts aimed at slashing methane emissions, a new analysis from the International Energy Agency has hammered home the need for more action on this front, since the full implementation of current pledges is not sufficient to bring forth the required emission reductions by 2030 in line with the Paris Agreement goals. Curbing the fossil fuel industry's methane footprint by 75% this decade is expected to cost about $170 billion based on IEA's calculations. This spending for methane cuts is perceived to be less than 5% of the income generated by the industry in 2023. Even though methane emissions from the energy sector remained near a record high last year, the IEA's Global Methane Tracker 2024 report shows that they could soon decrease thanks to the announced policies and regulations, as well as pledges made at the COP.
Fashions to bring you up to speed with the terminologies and jargons we use in the shipping industry. Today's word is primage. Primage.
Primage refers to a charge paid by shippers to ship agents for services provided by the agent in Turkish and Greek ports, generally for loading activities conducted by port stevedores.
All right, so we're zooming into our discussion proper tonight, and tonight we're taking a look at the global maritime economy in 2024, some trends and some projections, and some happenings also in our country, Ghana, in the shipping industry. It gives us pleasure this evening to introduce to you our guest, Dr. Emmanuel Kofimbia. He's no stranger to Iron Port. He's been here on several occasions, but this is his first for the year 2024. Good evening, Doc, and welcome, sir. It's good to see you, sir. Good to see you, sir. Your mic is off, Doc, if you can switch on. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Good evening, Doc. Good to see you, sir. Good to see you, sir. So Dr. Emmanuel Kofimbia is a private legal practitioner. He's a maritime law consultant, and he's also a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana. Indeed, I know he undertakes professorial duties, beyond the shores of Ghana, in elsewhere. We cannot go into the details tonight. But tonight, we are privileged to introduce him as our guest for Iron Port. And like I said, we are going to take a look at the global maritime economy for the year 2024. We'll take a look at some trends, some projections, and some key happenings in our country, Ghana, as far as the maritime industry is concerned. So, first of all, I would want to come to you straight up and find out what you make of the year 2023. That was last year. Some of the things that you thought took place in the industry that caught your attention, and that's worth sharing with our viewers.
Yes, Ken, thank you very much. In order to have a perspective in terms of the outlook, looking at 2023.
Okay, they're saying you should draw your microphone a bit closer.
Looking at 2023 and then coming into 2024.
Yes, sir.
I think it's important for us to try and look at some indicators,
right?
That, if you like, will give us an overview, of the maritime scene, as it were. Because anytime we want to do an outlook, we cannot restrict it only to the straight and narrow.
Right.
It's important for us to look at maybe world seaborne trade, the volumes.
Right.
And then maybe we have to turn our attention. One other very cardinal thing we used to reckon has to do also with the order book. When I talk about the order book, I'm talking about the order for new ships.
Okay.
Because it also has a story to tell.
Right.
We also would have to look at the demand and supply of shipping services. The demand, supply of shipping services, because they also dictate, to a very large measure, freight rates, capacity, etc. Then, not forgetting, especially in recent times, the geopolitical dimensions, to shipping.
Right.
We need to touch a little bit on that. We also would need to look at the regulatory framework. Okay. Sometimes at the international level, regulation is put in place and it has an impact on shipping.
Right.
I mean, when you started off I realize you talked about the single window 2024.
Yes. Absolutely, yes.
IMO gave January 2024 as the start date.
Yes.
I hear we're now going to roll it out.
Absolutely,
but I would say better late than never.
Yes.
Yeah, so those things have an impact, as it were, on shipping. So we have to look at that as well. So the regulatory framework is important. The order book is important. World seaborne trade is important. The geopolitical dimensions are important. We also have to look, as I said, at the demand and supply for shipping services. So maybe I could start off by looking at world seaborne trade.
Yes.
You know, it's important to go post-pandemic,
right?
You know, because the pandemic levels brought us very low,
right?
You know, but in 2021, for example, the levels of cargo throughput, world seaborne trade, dropped almost by about 0.4%.
Right.
But by 2022 and 2023, we had seen the green shoots, and there was a rise.
Right.
So by end of 2023, we're talking about 2.4% rise in terms of world seaborne trade.
Right.
You know, world seaborne trade had reached by 2022 an all-time high. You know, after coming down, as I said, in 2022, 2021, because of the pandemic, it has climbed up to about 11.2 billion tons of trade all over the world, which was very significant. And the expectation is that in 2024, we are likely to see also an increase, you know, in world seaborne trade. Looking at the major players, you know, UNCTAD, you know, is predicting that we'll have about maybe 2 to 2.4%.
Right.
Clarkson, Drury, Clyde & Co., who all make projections with respect to seaborne trade. They are a little cautious, or cautiously optimistic, you know, that even though there will be growth, you know, in terms of seaborne trade, they do not see anything very remarkable in the coming years. So as far as the international scene is concerned, we see that 2024 is likely to pick up, looking at about 2 to 2.4%.
Right.
When we look at the medium term, that is from around 2024 to 2028, you know, the medium term, we are looking at a growth of between 3 to 4%,
right?
You know, over the period, averagely, which indeed is remarkable, unless there is another pandemic.
Right.
But if there is no pandemic, then that is fine. You know, and then you need to look at the order book, you know, and see. Are there new orders? The demand for ships.
Yes.
Are there new orders? You know, if you take oil tankers, for example, coming on the back of the gold standard, the expectation was that July 2023 would have, but the pandemic set us back, and consequently, there were not many deliveries. So there's been a slowdown, as it were, in terms of tonnage and capacity. So there will be a shrinkage, as it were. You know, so that kind of contraction would also affect freight rates. You know, it would also affect shipping services generally, because I've told you that the supply and demand of shipping services has a bearing, you know, because of the capacity that is out there in the market. So charter rates will be affected as a result. You know, so these are things that you need to have in mind to get your outlook in a position that a forecast that relates to reality. You know, I also mentioned that quite apart from the order book and the shrinkage in terms of the order of tonnage, you would also have to look at the geopolitical dimensions. The geopolitical dimensions. First, the pandemic came, you know, then Russia, Ukraine, you know, and now Israel, Hamas, you know, and the Red Sea and the Houthi rebels, and what is happening now affecting global trade. So even though the United States of America, Europe, they have put in place a mechanism to ensure that vessels are shepherded. Big companies like CMA, CGM, Maersk Line, they've taken a decision that, look, they will go around the Cape of Good Hope.
Right.
I don't know, I think you have something which...
If we can show the visuals, the production team would put it on the screen.
It's very clear to you the distance that you have to cover if you do not have to use the Suez Canal and the Red Sea.
Right.
You know, because from Europe to Asia and Asia to Europe, that is, if you like...
Okay, I think it's on the screen now.
Yes. You can see over there the Suez Canal.
Yes.
That is in the middle. The yellow which you see in the middle.
Yes.
So you find from Europe going to Singapore, you find the route is short. If you don't make that route, then you are going to add about 3,500 nautical miles. Which will be a steaming time of around 10 to 12 additional days.
Right.
So you will be making about 36 to 38 days, you know, for a journey that you would have used about 24 to 26 days.
You're
making about 36 to 38 days. The fuel alone, another cost to be about 1.6 million pounds.
Wow.
You know, so it is quite clear that coming this way and going around the Cape of Good Hope, you know, indeed has a bearing on the outlook of shipping going forward. So this particular geopolitical thing is important for us in trying to understand, you know, what is likely to happen if this persists.
Right.
You know, already, as I said, Maersk Line, CMA, they have opted to go around the Cape of Good Hope.
Yes.
Remember that when that happens, immediately it has consequences for insurance. It means that your insurance
premiums will
go up. It's also important to bear in mind freight rates are likely to go up.
Yes.
And in this era of just-in-time concept, you know, when time is of essence for the delivery of particular raw materials, you know, and finished products, it becomes imperative that you look at your timing.
Right.
So if you are adding an additional 12 days, you know, sometimes 14 days, you know, to your steaming time, it has an impact on the global supply chain and the supply networks. Then also, in terms of looking at the outlook, one also would need to look at the regulatory framework.
Right.
You know, what kind of international regulation is in place?
Right.
And you realize that in recent times, we've been talking about climate change, we've been talking about digitalization.
Yes.
First, climate change, decarbonization. The targets to reach by 2030 means that there is a lot for ship owners, shipping lines know, to do, and consequently, it has a bearing also because there is a cost element. So when we talk about the green transition, I think it's always important to add the green and just transition. I like to put the just transition, just because, you know, we from the developing economies, you know, we are at the receiving end, you know, of these measures.
Yes.
And consequently, there is a cost to it. That cost is likely to come back to us.
Right.
So, in terms of the climate change, decarbonization, it also has an effect in terms of the outlook.
Right.
Then apart from the climate change, digitalization, I think your footage showed clearly what we referred to, that by 1st January 2024, all ports in the world, you know, mandatorily should adopt single window systems, you know, and even though we have ICOMs, and therefore we have single window systems, you need to look at this from the perspective of the port, and then also from the perspective of cargo. And then eventually, if there is a need to, as it were, merge these two to synchronize and make them seamless, then it works much, much better. So, in effect, you will see that all of these things have an impact. Looking into 2024, what this would mean, you know, for global trade, what it would mean for world seaborne trade, what we are likely, you know, to come by in that regard.
Right.
If you look at the projections, therefore, while we are positive, and as I said, if you take Clarkson, Clyde and Co., etc., for them, they are cautiously optimistic.
Okay.
Going forward, I think that because we have come out of a pandemic, yes. We have come up in 2022, 2023.
Yes.
There is likely by the end of 2024 for us to see an improvement.
Right.
So an increase of about 2%.
Right.
You know, for 2024.
Okay.
Is a likely figure.
Okay.
You know. Now that is with the international. So come home now. If you come to Ghana, you realize that we also had a drop in cargo throughput in 2021.
Right.
Especially, I say that contraction came at the back of the pandemic.
Right.
It was something that was expected. But by 2022, 2023, we had begun ascending. And in 2023, I think the ports of Tema and Takoradi made in total about 26 million tons of cargo, you know, which indeed is very significant, especially if you consider it from the backdrop of the pandemic and then the dire economic straits in which the country finds itself.
Yes.
There still are a number of challenges, you know, that affect the outlook, especially in 2024. You know, for example, I have been an advocate of the general elections being held in November. I even sometimes think that, look, even much earlier than November should be fine, you know, because of the fact that there is a certain level of tension, you know, that characterizes our elections. And around that time, it doesn't augur well for business. So there is a lot of wait-and-see attitude. People want to see what would happen. And the Christmas period is, in fact, a very important period for us as far as the trade is concerned, and especially our international trade. So people order ahead of time, but sometimes they are not very certain, and certainty is key as far as trade is concerned. And when they are not certain, sometimes they are not too sure how much of importation they should bring around this period. Because remember, our elections is in December.
Yes.
You know, and that's the same time we are inching towards Christmas.
Yes.
So I have always been an advocate of bringing the elections much earlier. Only from the economic standpoint.
Yes.
That is the way I have looked at it. If you take container transport, for example, I mean, I think once again we suffered a drop in about 2021.
Right.
You know, bringing the number of TEUs to about 1.2 million tons, whilst prior pandemic we had hit about 1.6 million TEUs.
Right.
You know, so we are expecting that by end of 2024 we should be climbing back. You know, around 1.4 million TEUs to the 1.6 million TEUs.
Yeah.
I was in the port last week, and I realized that as far as the MPS was concerned, you know, you could see that a lot of containers had come into the port. So I tried to make some inquiries.
Yes.
And in actual fact, it's not something that is a permanent feature.
Right.
I think there were some two ultra-large container carriers which came with some containers that were meant for other destinations.
Right.
You know? Some were meant for going to Mauritania and places like that. So, and Senegal, Dakar, for that matter. So it meant that a lot of containers came into the port. But we should not be deceived. These were not cargoes meant for Ghana. These were cargoes on transshipment.
Yes.
You know? So while we see an improvement in terms of traffic coming to the port, we should not be deluded by the volume of containers which we have seen in the first 2 months of the year.
Right.
I was speaking to Mohammed, you know, from MPS, and he explained quite clearly. He explained quite clearly that this is what accounts for the increase in containers which you see in the port. But as I said, generally, for 2024, the outlook is good.
Right.
You know, post-pandemic, the slight increases, the green shoots that are showing that indeed we are likely to have more cargo coming through our ports. Tema and Takoradi in 2024. But as I said, the election year and the time for the elections is always a matter of concern. Always a matter of concern. So while we are positive, at the same time, it's imperative that we are cautious in terms of how we manage our things. So when you ask me for the outlook for 2024, I would, in one word, say positive.
Very positive. Yeah, positive or very positive?
Positive.
Positive,
I'll say positive. I would not say, because, you know...
You're being cautiously optimistic.
Yes, there's been a lot of cry also. I mean, if you take the fact that exchange rate levels, you know, have now reached about 13.5, going to about 13.8 cedis to $1.
Yes.
You know, it's worrying. It's disturbing. Quite frankly, it's disturbing. Yeah. You know, because for a vehicle, you know, that you bought at maybe 50,000 United States dollars,
yes.
You know, and pay the duty of about maybe 30 to 40 thousand Ghana cedis. For that same, you'll be paying over 100,000 Ghana cedis now. You get me? So, indeed, the exchange rate factor is very important, and it gets to a certain level that it definitely affects trade. That is why we need to be cautiously optimistic.
Awesome. So I recall last year we had a program here, and you called for a lot of fixation, you know, focus on the maritime industry, the shipping industry, to develop it, to serve at some point as an economic buffer stock, you know, as an economic buffer, if you like. And I just want to find out from you, since then, whether you've been able to figure out one or two things that looks quite progressive in this direction that you'd want to perhaps share with us.
Yeah, thank you. In terms of awareness, I would say there has been a great deal of awareness. I have seen that at the level of the presidency, you know, the Sustainable Development Goals, there is an office, you know, which has tended attention to maritime, etc. But beyond the rhetoric, there has not been much.
Right.
Quite frankly, there hasn't been much. You know, only this week, as I said, I was going towards the port. And when you look at the Regional Maritime University, you have been driving on that route every time.
Yes.
When you get out of the gate of the Regional Maritime
University,
you are driving towards Tema.
Yes.
I mean, look at what is happening.
The road,
And on your right side,
yes,
the place that abuts the sea.
Exactly.
Prime
development, yeah, sure.
Prime land. You know, fitting shops, mechanic workshops, you know, and you'd find haphazard development. You know, and this is something that can generate enormous revenue for this country. And yet, we haven't turned our attention
to it.
We're waiting for what? So, if you ask me, I would say yes, there's been some attention paid, but I think it's more of theory than practical, more of rhetoric than anything else. Not much has been done in that regard.
Let me also find out from you, I know you played a key role when the National Integrated Maritime Strategy was being rolled out. I think we even met in Koforidua, you know, during that time and all that. I just want to find out from you whether you've taken time to follow the progress of the names in terms of implementation and how it's panning out.
Yeah, the names. You know, like many of its kind.
Yeah.
You know, the euphoria is great. You know, I think that the president himself was there to, as it were, accept the document, you know, and all of that. But if you recall, I told you on that date that, look, while the names is good, in terms of strategy, in terms of what it proposes, because it has some policy elements as well, I told you that, look, it should have come on the back of a comprehensive maritime policy.
Absolutely. That was going to be my next question.
Actually, so then that maritime policy will be the basis for the formulation of a strategy to implement that policy. You know, so when you put the strategy ahead of the policy, it's like you are putting the
cart before the horse.
So you would find out that Yes, it's been completed. It's a good document. You know, we all realize it, but there are challenges.
Right.
Because the building blocks to get it off the ground
Right.
have not been put in place.
Right.
I know that there are attempts to develop what we call an ocean policy.
Okay.
You know, ocean policy, again, from the Office of the President, the office that is responsible for the sustainable development goals.
Yes.
You know, but it's important that we don't do these things in silos. You know, the level of integration is important. To what extent are they working with academia? To what extent are they working with the Ministry of Transport? To what extent are they working with the agencies and the Ministry of Transport? Get me? So that if we are not careful, then we have so much of a focus on the public international law aspects of things rather than the private. You know?
Right.
But there should be a good fusion between these two. You know, so it's important going forward that the coordination, you know, should come. The coordination should come. They should be more integrated, you know, so that we can see that quite clearly. You know, the last time I talked about the blue economy,
Yes.
what the blue economy offers, etc. In fact, I would think that you know, we are all now against the creation of new ministries. And,
Yes.
Yeah, new, if you like, authorities, etc. But the point is that if we want to highlight and pay attention, you know, to the maritime sector, we should be considering, for example, a title like Ministry of Transport and Blue Economy. You know, Ministry of Transport and Blue Economy.
To emphasize on the blue economy.
So that at least in our minds, we don't lose track of the blue economy and its potential. You know? So that, for example, is something I believe we should be looking at going forward.
Right. Awesome. Okay, so I just want us to take a look at this issue of multimodal transport in our country. We're talking about connectivity in terms of the supply chain and transporting cargo from one point to the other. We have our neighboring Sahaelian countries. I don't know what's become of their quest to secede from ECOWAS and all that. That's another story to discuss, you know, some other day. But we just want to find out from you how important it is. You've hammered the need for it. Whether you've monitored any progress, and I want to find out from you the real network in our country. What should we be doing?
And unfortunately, we don't have the network. We don't have the network. You know? I think I've said it before at one of our programs that in all my research, in all my work, I have not found any country that calls itself developed. You know, especially countries which have a large land mass. You know, which have not developed on the back of the railway. So the prioritization of the railway as part of the network for multimodal transport is a sine qua non.
Right.
It's key. You can't do without.
Again, it's a sine
qua non.
That's a legal.
No, it's not legal. It's English.
Okay.
It's something you cannot do without.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
So it's so crucial.
Okay.
It's pivotal.
Right.
You get me? It is a fulcrum on which a lot of things revolve.
Revolve, absolutely.
So if you don't have a good railway system, the multimodal you are talking about, you'll find it very difficult. You know, because there should be integrated transport.
Right.
From road to rail to waterway,
inland, sure.
etc. You know, we've been doing this Tema Mpakadan railway line.
Yes.
But are we terminating it over there at Mpakadan? Get me? Do we have the resources to do the continuation? You know, so it's important for us to highlight this and to prioritize them if we must make meaning of our multimodal transport and to make sure we are utilizing the resources that God has given to us. You know?
Okay, so take a look at the global supply chain and how it is evolving with the advent of technology. There's a lot of technological penetration in most of, you know, the places that we practice, you know, as far as the supply chain is concerned. Ghana, we can boast of a lot of, these in our ports, automation, digitalization, and all that, and other ports, neighboring. How, have you viewed this?
It's important and it's key. Recently, if you recall, some two days of internet disruptions.
And everything went,
showed us quite clearly.
We slowed down, absolutely.
Yeah, it showed us quite clearly where we could get to.
Yeah.
Get me?
Yeah.
Because today, we've become so dependent. Yeah. Submarine cables have been a feature of our lives for a very long time. Today, there are also satellite options. Yeah. We also could be looking at terrestrial options. Yes. Be looking at offline arrangements, as ways of looking at this. Because, look, just for those 2 days, we could tell quite clearly the ICOMs went down. Yes. The downtimes were massive. Yeah. And consequently, it affected duty payment. Yeah, and remember that we rely
as a country, absolutely.
As a country on these duties.
Yes.
It affected the shipping lines themselves because of connectivity.
Yes.
And consequently, it meant that people could not clear. Yeah. They couldn't clear their containers.
International trade was hampered.
Demurrage issues. Even the Port Authority itself, its Outlook system, by which it disseminates information. So you come to realize that, indeed, digitalization has come to stay. But how robust are we in terms of the alternatives that we put in place? The backup systems, such that we'll be able to switch. And also, the extent to which we could fall, for example, on regional arrangements. Right. On regional arrangements. So we have a strong backbone in the region such that we don't have to rely so much on these international networks. And we can fall on these. Right. So the options are important. The digitalization is key. It is the driver now. We've talked about the single window system. We've talked about ICOMs. Even when we talk about the bill of lading, it is changing in character. Right. If you talk about the way in which shipment, we still use the word telex messages, etc. But today, if you look at the transmission of information between local agents and then principals outside, for cargo to be cleared, for clearance to be given, etc. All of these are dependent on the internet. Right. And consequently, it's become imperative that we have a strong backbone. We have alternatives in various forms, such that we would not be found wanting when these things happen.
Awesome. This is our report here on Metropolitan Television, and tonight I'm in the studios with Dr. Emmanuel Kofimbia, who is a private legal practitioner. He's a maritime consultant and a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana. And we're taking a look at the global economy, global maritime economy in 2024, some projections, some trends, and indeed some happenings in the shipping industry in our country, Ghana. That's what we're discussing tonight. We're going for a quick break. When we return, we'll continue with the show. Please stay with us.
Guys, now I'm tired. I'll go on a date with whoever gets here first.
Princess, really? Okay, I dey come.
Shut up!
Mame, boss, fill my tank with Super XP Raw 95.
Fill up with Super XP Raw 95 and Diesel XP high performance products from Goyle.
Sorry, Tony got here first, so I'm stepping with him.
Oh, cut him. Hey,
choose Super XP Raw 95 and Diesel XP for an energizing driving experience. Always go for Goyle Super XP Raw 95. Goyle, good energy.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Tell God, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifu, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is, you still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Impressive factory. If only I had listened to you, I wouldn't have been in this mess. That devastating fire virtually wiped out the whole factory and my warehouse.
Remember my misfortunes last year? Serene Insurance Asset All Risk Fire policy that I took were there to pay for my damaged stocks in the warehouse. And my machines that were affected by the floods have been replaced. My accident vehicle is back on the road thanks to Serene Insurance Motor Policy. Currently, my goods are on the high seas, covered with their marine cargo insurance policy. I was just telling Ajima about Serene Insurance. Oh, Ajima, tell him more.
As a road contractor, I make sure I do my contractors all risk insurance for the projects and then workers' compensation for all the workers on site. With Serene Insurance, they will make sure they will cover your unknown tomorrow today.
Serene Insurance, a new face of insurance. Call us now.
MPS Terminal 3 is Africa's new state-of-the-art container terminal at Tema Port. For manufacturers, agro-processors and traders, the new port means business can be done faster. This infrastructure boost will improve Ghana's port handling capacity, connect more trading routes, and oil the engine of growth for the economy, creating greater opportunities across all sectors as Africa's markets merge and become the largest trading bloc globally. MPS, we connect, you thrive.
Business and life can be like the sea sometimes. Sometimes serene, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, and at times it brings the unexpected. However it is like, trust Phoenix Insurance for your home, car, business, and marine insurance needs. Call 0302 246 319 or 0243 690 492.
At Phoenix, you experience a delightful service delivered with wisdom.
All right, so welcome back. This is Iron Port here on Metropolitan Television tonight. We have in the studios Dr. Emmanuel Kofimbia, who is a private legal practitioner. He's a maritime consultant. He's also a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana. And we're discussing the global maritime economy in the year 2024 and what the trends and projections are, what we should be looking out for. We also have bits and pieces of what's happening in our own country, Ghana. And he has spoken a lot about what we should be expecting. I mean, that was in his initial submission in the year 2024. Your messages are coming in thick and fast, and so I'll be coming into the inbox so we can share them with you. We also like to inform you that the lines have been activated, and so you can call in and contribute to the discussion. The line is right on your screen, 020-552-8353, 020-552-8353. You can call in and contribute to the discussion. Now, I think I have this one from some students that Doc has taught. One of them is my own boss, Bright Andy, the Estates and Environment Manager at Tema Port. He says, I have informed my mates that I have dedicated today's program to them, class of 2023 maritime law students of University of Ghana School of Law. I'm out of town at the moment. Okay, and he goes further to say that Dr. Emmanuel Kofimbia is the best lecturer we have ever had. He's so good at his job and he knows what he's about. So this is something from your students. They are watching us via social media and all that, and they would want to applaud you for the good job you are doing. They are assimilating whatever you are impacting onto them. Yes. Yes, so this one is from Ohima. She says, Ohima in Tema, Pauline Brokwa, she says, good evening, Iron Port. Very insightful discussion. Now that the NIMS has been prepared without a maritime policy, how do we right the wrong? would we have to do a new names if we should develop a new maritime policy? Doc, this one is from Mohima to you. If you would oblige her.
I should answer now.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, Doc. Sure.
I think it's a good point she makes there. As I said to you the other day,
yes,
the NIMS is strategy.
Right.
Get me. However, it has some snippets of policy in there. So we don't have to come back and do something completely new.
Right.
But we have to try as much as possible to isolate the areas that are key in terms of fuse it into a comprehensive policy. Then look at whether the strategies which we have would deal effectively and efficiently with all those policy dimensions that we want to look at.
Right.
So it wouldn't be a completely new thing. The NIMS is still very useful. It's still a very important document. It could be always a starting point for dealing with these matters.
Okay. This one says, so with the vessels choosing to pass through the Southern Cape, this means we will pay more for our freight. This is sad, Dr. Mbia. We are already suffering from the cost of shipping, even as things were. Where do we go from here? Vera in Nungwa sent in this one.
Yes, I mean, she's quite right. As I said, the impact of the disruptions in the Red Sea, are not direct as far as Ghana is concerned.
Right.
I mean, if you look at the map which I showed to you,
yes,
it's quite clear that from Europe, instead of going through the Suez Canal, which is in the middle and cuts the journey short,
yes,
they have to come around the Cape of Good Hope.
Yes.
But the point is that this is not cargoes that are coming to Ghana.
Right.
Essentially, this is Europe, Asia.
Right.
That is the nature of the trade. However, there is always an indirect impact. There's an indirect impact because, remember, raw materials are moving, manufacturing is taking place, there is just-in-time concepts,
yes,
and consequently, we will get goods also from Europe.
Right.
There is also a likelihood that these will escalate in terms of freight rates,
right,
which freight rates have cascaded as a result of the problem in the Red Sea.
Right.
So it has an indirect impact as far as Ghana is concerned.
Right.
And
okay.
Maybe let me just mention something because this is for the port. Looking ahead, looking at the crystal ball and what is happening. Unless there are some major shifts, if you do a close study, you will realize that some bulk importers are now breaking the bulk and shipping in containers.
Right.
Because the economic crunch, the difficulties in shipping those large volumes at a time and paying so much by way of duties.
Right.
So they are bringing the cargo in, but the volumes have reduced, and they are putting them in containers. And going forward, we need to take a keen look at that, especially as the port has, if you like, largely ceded containerization to MPS, and it's dealing more with bulk and general cargo.
Right.
Something that we need to be looking at.
Consider. Okay. All right. This one says, my name is Kwame in Tema. Tell Dr. Mbia I too dream of a time where we can transform that beach road stretch to become a top marine drive to boost real estate and tourism. From his experience, how do we get such a project off the ground? Because, like him, I believe it's a potential gold mine for the nation.
Yes. Last time I think I mentioned, you can't wish things to be, get me? And you can't get things done and done properly without having a plan.
Right.
You need to have a plan, and that is why we have something we call marine spatial planning.
Right.
We have about 550,000 kilometers of coastline.
Right.
Get me? Have you mapped out the entire coastline so that you have spatial planning? You have places that are reserved, There are places that for ecological purposes,
yes,
you don't go there, you don't touch them at all, for preservation,
yes,
conservation. There are places which you designate for tourism and tourist purposes. So if he's asking how it is done, the key thing is we have to have marine spatial planning.
Right.
We have to put all of these things and connect the dots and ensure that there is a proper plan that takes account of the coast all the way from Aflao to Hafasini. So we need to bear that in mind.
Right.
If we plan and we do that and we give ourselves a target, gradually we will develop our coastline.
Right. This one says we cannot develop a good maritime industry without good rails. The efficiency of the local supply chain hinges on this. The next government must treat rail as an emergency and put everything into it. Maxwell in Kumasi sent in this.
Yes, he's very right. You know, our performance when it comes to the logistics performance index,
yes,
LPI, has not been too good over the years. We have hovered sometimes around, out of 139 countries, we've hovered around 79, 80, thereabouts, you know, which is not too good.
Yes.
We are only better than Nigeria.
Right.
But out of a mark of about 5, we are around 2.2. You know, we have some grounds to cover. So the point he makes is relevant. The logistics performance index looks at factors such as tracking and tracing. You know, it looks at the speed within which business is done at the ports, the clearance processes, the level of container penetration in the port, the level of technological penetration. All of these are important in determining your logistics performance index. That is why we are not doing too well. So when you talk about the cost of doing business, cost of doing business being high, it's a reflection of our logistics performance index.
That was actually going to be my next question to you, because it's become a mainstay discussion. That's the cost of doing business. There's high taxes and duties, you know, associated with the clearance of goods at the port or doing business generally in the port. I just want to find out from you how you view this particular trend, the way taxes and duties are being administered in our ports, how it is impacting the sector.
Yeah. Ken, you recall, I have made this claim before that yes, I don't think that we've made some comparative studies here and there in terms of duty rates, you know, and they are not at huge variances if you compare them to our neighbors. The point has to do with the stability of our currency. Stability of our currency. It has a phenomenal impact.
Yes.
You know, and consequently, I've been an advocate for, look, why don't we? Because this permeates into the system from the micro level to the macro level. So why don't we? We can start off. I know government is thinking about revenue, etc., but we can start off pegging the exchange rate as far as duties are concerned. A period of 3 months, you know, stabilize it, fix it. This is the exchange rate we will be using over the next 3 months. And let us see how it works, you know, because it is the same thing that leads to the inflationary pressures. So if you cleared a container at 10 to $1 just a couple of months ago, and now you have to do 13 to $1. When you are importing your next consignment, you don't work on the basis of 13 to the dollar. You work on the basis of 15 to the dollar.
Right.
You know, and we are already reckoning that we may be hitting by April around 14 to 15 cedis to the dollar. So that is critical. The duties by themselves have not gone up.
Right.
But the exchange rate as a factor is critical. You know, and sometimes on the back of that, I hear people talk about, oh, we are losing cargo to Lome. We are losing cargo to Lome. We can't just lose cargo to Lome because of the exchange rate. Because the point is that, like it or not, if you bring your cargo through Aflao, you still have to pay the duty. If it is 13.50 cedis to the dollar, you still will have to pay 13.50 to the dollar.
Right.
So there are 2 factors that are there. One, the ship calls. Are we having lesser ship calls? Which ship calls are terminating in Lome rather than in Tema? That is not the case. The statistics doesn't bear that out.
Right.
Cargo. How many trucks, you know, are you seeing moving from Aflao and coming to town? And no reasonable businessman, as it were, doing volumes, for example, would deposit his cargo in Lome
Yeah.
and track them to Accra, to Kumasi,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
No. So it's a misnomer. That thing is not true. It's not
Right.
accurate.
Right.
And we need to make that clear that Ghana is not losing traffic
Right.
to Lome.
Lome, okay.
But having said that, when it comes to your question, as I said, the challenge is not so much the duty levels.
Right.
The challenge is the exchange rate levels.
Right.
And therefore, if we can stabilize just for the purpose of imports, if we can have a period, 3 months,